covering major news across San Diego. 10 News Midday starts now.
Thanks for being with us. This midday, we're learning more about a huge drug bust this morning in Imperial Beach, where hundreds of bales of pot were seized from a home on 7th near Cypress.
It's a story we first brought you as breaking news this morning at 4:30. Within the last hour, we've learned that they've confiscated more than pot. 10 News reporter Rachel Bianco joins us with the new information.
Today, the only sign of the police investigation is this leftover crime tape. Officers say they had this house under surveillance, and that's what led to this huge drug bust. We've concealed the faces of the undercover officers to protect their identities, but you can clearly see this is a large drug bust. Hundreds of bales of marijuana confiscated, along with a small amount of cocaine and cash.
This is a big deal. Over half a ton of marijuana is a lot of marijuana. The 449 grams of methamphetamine have a street value of over $10,000. That's significant as well. I think we got it right at the start, so there was obviously going to be a potential for a huge distribution.
Police say they got a tip that this U-Haul would be delivering and or picking up drugs at this house in the 500 block of 7th near Cypress. Neighbors are stunned to find out what was going on right in their backyard.
Kind of odd. There's quite quiet over there. I never heard any noise, never heard anything. I saw the U-Haul a couple of times. I saw it last night driving around.
It's sad because this is a very nice community that we're a part of, and a lot of these people have been living here for many years. And it's sad that people come in and try to disrupt the peace.
Police arrested 2 men. One was driving the U-Haul, the other was inside the house. Each faces a long list of charges. Neighbors say the people who lived here only moved in a few months ago, and one of them noticed something that she thought was unusual. I'll have that part of the story new at 11:30. In Imperial Beach, Rachel Bianco, 10 News.
Police say 37-year-old Juan Rodriguez and 35-year-old Eddie Martinez are in jail in connection with this morning's drug bust. Investigators say they're trying to determine if the 2 men have criminal backgrounds and where they're from. Well, high tide and big waves caused quite a spectacle all across our coast this morning, including in Ocean Beach.
10 News reporter Ariana Duarte is in OB with the impressive video and what had some businesses on edge.
Things have calmed down quite a bit since this morning, but to give you an idea of how high the tide came, the water came all the way up to this wall right here. You can still see some kelp left over, which made for some pretty big crowds out here in OB. This is one of the signs of an especially high tide, water creeping all the way up to the wall. And this. Crashing waves about 6 to 8 feet tall that surfers out here can really only describe in one way.
They're big and they're gnarly pounders.
Zach Barrett was among a handful who braved the choppy waters, but most chose to enjoy the view from afar, snapping photos and surprised over how high the water got.
I was actually shocked to see that it had come out this far, so I wasn't sure. I'm like, wow, what's going on?
But the high surf and powerful waves weren't exactly exciting for everyone. With yesterday's rain and this morning's high tide, businesses in OB prepped themselves for potential flooding, stacking sandbags outside doorways just in case the water tried to trickle in.
Well, I'm glad that we didn't get wet. That's awesome, and I'm glad we're still running good.
Employees at places like the New Break Cafe right across from the ocean say they're glad berms like this one help keep the water from getting too far, and they hope it stays that way in the days to come. And there is some potential rain in the forecast for tomorrow, which could cause some flooding in the OB area. Of course, business owners here hope that's not the case. Reporting from Ocean Beach, Ariana Duarte, 10 News.
Eyes are blue behind Ariana, but more rain is on the way to San Diego. Kirsten joins us with an early look at what we can expect for the weekend.
It sure is. We actually do have a high surf advisory in effect until tomorrow morning. Another high tide tomorrow at 8:45. Waves 4 to 7 feet. Not quite as high as it was this morning. The rain is on the way. Look at that. There's snow up Mount Laguna. That's our web camera in that area, but you can see the blue skies will quickly get rid of that. Our Soledad sky camera a bit rather clear as well. Our rain future cast showing the rain and the thunderstorms on the way in. hitting by, if you look at the clock at the top left-hand corner, about 6 o'clock Friday night. How long will they last, and will it be a washout for your weekend? I'll let you know that in about 10 minutes.
All right, Kirsten, we'll see you then. The Bahrain military has announced a ban on gatherings following a deadly crackdown on anti-government protests.
The Navy's 5th Fleet is stationed in Bahrain, and its members have been advised to avoid these protests. ABC's John Hendren says it's getting dangerous for everybody.
First, the peaceful democracy movement that swept Tunisia and Cairo came to the tiny kingdom of Bahrain. Then came the riot police, raining down tear gas, descending on the peaceful demonstrators with clubs, many of them sleeping, with tanks breaking up a peaceful protest camp. ABC's Miguel Marquez was reporting on the protests live on a radio interview.
Whoa! In a complete fight, right on the street. No, hang on. Journalist! I'm going!
Miguel and his producer made it out okay, but at least 5 were killed, more than 200 injured.
The United States strongly opposes the use of violence and strongly supports reform that moves toward democratic institution building and economic openness.
The Obama administration now has to balance calls for democracy and longtime allies. Bahrain is a linchpin in U.S. military strategy, hosting the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet, countering Iran's effort to expand its influence. The growing movement is not stopping, sweeping authoritarian governments throughout the Middle East.
This is not going to stop. This is now really a freedom fever that's caught on there.
In Yemen, there were more democracy protests. In Libya, where Muammar Gaddafi has ruled for 40 years, they called it a day of rage, leaving at least 14 dead in demonstrations. Last year, President Obama ordered a study of the region. A White House official tells ABC News it warned U.S. allies from Yemen to Bahrain were ripe for revolt. John Hendren, ABC News, Washington.
Later today, we'll hear about what the military calls our progress in Helmand Province, Afghanistan. The commanding general for Regional Command Southwest, Richard Mills, took part in a teleconference with other military officials at Camp Pendleton today. 10 News reporter Bob Lawrence is there. He'll bring you new information from today's teleconference and later editions of 10 News.
The most badly injured victim from the cab crash outside Stingaree nightclub this past weekend will undergo more surgery today to repair the leg she nearly lost. 10 News has been updating you on this story since it happened Saturday morning. That's when a cab plowed into a crowd of people outside the downtown nightclub. Dominique Gambale's attorney is going after whoever is at fault to pay for Gambale's medical care, which could cost millions.
We know for starters that the taxi cab and the driver is responsible. Who else is still under investigation, if anyone?
Bartolota says the cab driver Sam Daly's driving record will definitely be a factor. Daly was released from the hospital Tuesday night, but did not answer his door when we went to his house last night.
We have a warning this midday for parents and children in City Heights. Police say a man tried to kidnap a 10-year-old girl who was on her way to school yesterday morning. They say the man tried to pull her into his car at 46th Street in that alley there near University Avenue. The girl screamed and fought off the man and then ran to her school for help.
She was like really scared, like shaking and running to the class. And like she was like very afraid to go outside and get to see him again.
Police say the man's a dark-skinned Hispanic in his 50s, driving a white four-door mid-sized sedan, wearing a blue baseball cap and about 6 feet tall.
Traffic is back to normal now after a bus crash made for a messy morning commute. Sky 10 was overhead when it happened just after 6 this morning. The Highway Patrol says there weren't any passengers on the MTS bus when it crashed into a car on the 5 and the Pacific Highway off-ramp. 2 people suffered minor injuries and are expected to be okay.
A 22-year-old man who tried to rob a Carlsbad pizza restaurant is behind bars today. Police say the armed man wore a ski mask when he attacked employees with pepper spray at the Paradise Pizza just before midnight. Employees were able to grab the man's BB gun and wrestle him to the ground. Police took him to Tri-City Medical Center to treat a head injury that he sustained in the scuffle and then booked him into Vista Jail on charges of attempted robbery and assault.
A special meeting is being held in Chula Vista tonight about how to protect yourself from a serial groper. The most recent attack happened last week as a woman walked on the east side of Broadway near Jay. That marks the 16th groping incident in the area since September. Police have a sketch of a man responsible for terrorizing women day and night, ranging from age 15 to 57. Police will be holding a community meeting tonight at 6 at Chula Vista High School to keep the public informed and answer questions.
A Pacific Beach man's in jail for causing a DUI crash, running from the scene, and telling police his injured female passenger was a kidnap victim. Police say the 23-year-old man crashed his BMW into a light pole and a tree on southbound Ingram at SeaWorld Drive around midnight last night. They say he then crawled over his injured female passenger to get out of the car, ran home, and called the cops to say he had been carjacked and his passenger kidnapped. Cops didn't buy the story. They arrested the guy. Well, tragedy in Vietnam as 12 tourists, including 2 Americans, are killed when a tour boat sinks. Why the victims were likely caught off guard.
And a television legend, Bob Barker, steps in to save 25 lions found living in deplorable conditions, the expensive airlift, and where the lions will end up.
You get Lindsay on the show, I'll call in because I got some advice for her.
Charlie Sheen going on the radio to give advice to Lindsay Lohan. What he had to say next.
In Vietnam, 12 tourists, including 2 Americans, were killed when an anchored tour boat sank in picturesque Ha Long Bay. 27 people from 9 countries were sleeping aboard the boat on calm water when it sank for some unknown reason. 15 survived. Ha Long Bay is a big tourist attraction with 1,600 rock formations rising from the water. Tourists frequently sleep aboard these old wooden boats.
A joint task force headed by the FBI is in Mexico right now looking into the shooting of 2 ICE agents there. Today, the ICE office in Laredo, Texas, paying tribute to Special Agent Jaime Zapata, who was killed in that attack. Zapata and his fellow agent, Jaime Avila, were riding in an armored suburban SUV with diplomatic plates when they were shot at in Mexico City this week. Avila is recovering at a hospital in Houston.
25 lions that were going to be euthanized in Bolivia have arrived safely in Colorado. The 14 males and 11 females were rescued from deplorable conditions after a law passed last year in Bolivia prohibited all circus performance involving animals. Former Price is Right host, animal activist Bob Barker, helped pay for the $200,000 plane ride. The lions are headed to a wildlife sanctuary outside of Denver. Just ahead, a senator's secret. Scott Brown reveals he was sexually abused as a child, why he's decided to come forward now.
The shape I was showing up in was epic, was beyond comprehension.
Actor Charlie Sheen goes back on the radio to hand out some advice. His secret for getting through a hangover on the set of his hit show 2.5 Men next.
And a raunchy picture leaves a UCSD student mortified. Why, she says, the editor of a San Diego school newspaper used his power to hurt her.
And we have a collision in the North County, unfortunately. Southbound 5 at Birmingham Drive. Overturned vehicle. The number 1 lane is blocked, and it has traffic backed up from Poinsettia Lane until you're past the scene. Let's go outside for a live look. This is going to be I-5 at the 78, a couple miles north of the congested area, so please be careful out there. I'm Officer Jesse Udovich with the California Highway Patrol.
Senator Scott Brown of Massachusetts is revealing that he was sexually abused by a camp counselor when he was in 4th grade. 10 News has an early look at a 60 Minutes interview where Brown explained the pain he endured.
He said, if you tell anybody, I'll kill you. I will make sure that no one believes you.
Now, Brown shares details of the abuse in his new book, Against All Odds, coming out next week. The 60 Minutes report airs on Sunday. He may be the last person in the world you'd expect to help Lindsay Lohan turn her life around.
But Charlie Sheen actually went from patient to therapist during his latest interview with DirecTV's The Dan Patrick Show. Sheen has some advice for Lohan.
On your impulse control. Just try to think things through a little bit before you do them. Now check it. I was not there in the store. The necklace, the thing, some bracelet. Who cares? I mean, they're so desperate to vilify.
Sheen also spoke about his troubles on the set of his hit television show 2.5 Men. He denied being drunk or high on the set, but did admit to having to ask the director to move his mark closer to furniture so he could have something to lean on when his hangovers were too much to handle. He's giving out advice to other people?
Well, Lindsay needs to know that she needs to put a prop under her, right, Kirsten? That's
check
good
it.
Advice.
That, make check sure you check it. He also gave advice on only doing crack if you can handle it. That was on his previous interview. So, okay, Lindsay. 11:18. web camera from La Jolla. Boy, what a difference a day makes, right? Lots of blue skies out there, a little bit of cloud cover. Take yourself up to Snow Summit. We've got nice fresh powder. Wouldn't that be nice? If you're headed there for the long weekend, yes, it is, my friends, a long weekend. Hopefully you have Monday off and you get to enjoy some of this. Speaking of mountains, our web camera from Mount Laguna, we've got the same thing. Now, just a dusting of snow, but at least we had some. We talked about this about 15 minutes ago. Surf advisory in effect still until tomorrow at 10 a.m. And it's not going to be as high tomorrow morning, but it's still on our radar, so we'll keep that up there and keep an eye on it. Temperatures right now, 55 in Escondido, 58 in Cardiff, 57 in La Mesa, and 60 in San Diego. For the most part, we are down from yesterday. Why? It's sunny. It's nicer out than it was yesterday. Yes, but we don't have that cloud cover, and that cloud cover keeps us pretty warm in some cases, like it did yesterday. So our temperatures are lower. We're down 11 degrees in Borrego Springs and